And we're live. You knew this day would come. It's like she wanted it. It's like AOC just kept sort of begging for some kind of attention from the likes of Tom Homan, and now she's finally getting it as the feds look at possibly arresting one Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. The time has come, right? Which would mean she'd be off to federal prison if this indeed happens. Homan means business, I'll tell you that. And I've got all the receipts to show you how serious he is. I've known him for a lot of years. He's not messing around. So AOC's in trouble, along with a lot of other members of Congress, shall we say. Stocks, meanwhile, surging. Wow, Donald Trump said buy him. He said it again in Saudi Arabia. I hope you took his advice. Go over to 76research.com. Use code word dollar. Letitia James, meanwhile, getting cut off. She's got a $10 million slush fund, you see, for legal fees. But New York Republicans are saying, wait a second, this is a personal matter. I mean, you're the one that decided to lie on your mortgage application. That's not a matter of state. That's a personal thing. So she's up a creek without a paddle. Oh, I don't know. Maybe she'd actually have to sell off her assets, divest some of her assets to cover her high-priced Abby Lowell, Hunter Biden attorney. Fate has a funny way of working out, doesn't it? Welcome to the show. Make sure you subscribe, share, like. I am Trish Regan. This is the Trish Regan Show. And we begin today on the DHS, Department of Homeland Security, threatening AOC with arrest. You see, she keeps getting out there, out over her skis, taking on Tom Homan, Kristi Noem, you name it. And she just doesn't have the law on her side in this particular case. We've been through it. The Constitution has this little thing called the Supremacy Clause. AOC, I know you didn't go to law school, you had a bad degree in economics because somehow you wound up a socialist, but we'll get to that in a moment. She doesn't have a leg to stand on legally. And so when she continues to try to threaten these political stunts, she is going to find herself in trouble. Just to take a step back, you know what this is about. It's what happened the other day, last Friday in Newark, New Jersey, where they decided to arrest the mayor of Newark, New Jersey, because he was trespassing along with other members of Congress. And now there's a whole investigation going on because those other members of Congress got out there, trespassed onto an ICE facility, the Delaney facility there, which is federal property, and they asked them to leave. They wouldn't leave. So what was that about? Well, Tricia McLaughlin, who is the DHS spokesperson, says this was nothing but a cheap political stunt, and they're going to pay the price.
This was a cheap political stunt by the Democrats and by these protesters. Who do they want to get out of this facility? Is it the MS-13 gang members? Again, this is a cheap political stunt for their 15 minutes of fame. We're not having it. They put law enforcement officers at risk. They put our staff in the facility at risk, and put the detainees at risk. You saw that they didn't even let an ambulance through. This is not something that this administration is going to put up with. And that's part of the reason that this mayor was arrested. You can't just storm a detention facility and assault law enforcement officers with impunity.
No, you can't. Okay? Like, this is kind of basic stuff, all right? Like, I don't know why they think they can do that, but this La Monica. You see, it has a certain ring to it. La Monica, who's a relatively new congressperson there in New Jersey, decided she was going to get up there and grandstand alongside Menendez, I believe a relation to Robert Menendez, who is now in jail for stealing and for fraud. Can't make it up. They got out there to do a little bit of grandstanding, and then things got kind of rough because we are now getting word that there was body slamming going on. Again, Tricia McLaughlin making this point on CNN, saying they're going to release all the tape. So La Monica, watch out. She's the lady in red as you look at this, guys.
We should let viewers know there will likely be more arrests coming. We actually have body camera footage of some of these members of Congress assaulting our ICE enforcement officers, including body slamming a female ICE officer. So we will be showing that to viewers very shortly.
You say a video of members of Congress body slamming ICE
That's correct.
officials?
That's correct, sir. It's disgusting.
Okay, and so if you have that video, are you suggesting that members of Congress will be arrested who were there yesterday?
This is an ongoing investigation, and that is definitely on the table.
Who has the video?
ICE does, and we will be releasing that very shortly.
Okay. Let's talk about...
So ICE has the video. We're waiting on the full release, but we've got some I want to share with you right now. Remember, La Monica is the woman in red. Take a look at her. She is the one that they are suggesting may have body slammed people. Menendez possibly too. A female ICE agent. Way to go, libs. I know it's a little bit hard to hear what's going on, but you can see there's quite a commotion. And La Monica is the woman in red, you see, who is going to be appearing. Well, do we see her? Does she make another cameo? There she is. You can see. By the way, for those of you that are listening on Spotify, thank you, thank you, thank you. You can't talk to a congresswoman like that. Thank you for listening on Spotify. If you're not on Spotify, go over there and check it out. The Trish Regan Show on Spotify, totally free. You see me, I'm in like a red dress. Blue background, red dress. Unbelievable. This is crazy. Again, to our audio listeners, I apologize for being quiet through this, but it's just really something to see. And it's important that you see it, actually. It's really, really important that you see it. I cannot stress enough that this is a moment. Leslie, one of our viewers here who's been with me from the very, very beginning. Guys, we're at like 60,000 now? I mean, like it's phenomenal. We're growing every single day. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. You're spreading the word. You're telling everybody. You're subscribing. You're liking. You're sharing. You're commenting. All of this is helping. But, you know, we got a few people who've been here from the get-go. And Leslie's one of them. And Leslie was saying that in her estimation, this is a kind of insurrection. And I think we're going to continue to hear more. I mean, I don't think this is going away, in part because of some of the things that AOC is saying and some of the allegations she's making and the threats she's making, and then the threats that we hear back. And I'm going to get to that in a second again. But just remember what we're looking at. Last Friday, you had members of Congress. Okay, these are not like J6ers, you know, people, everyday citizens who decided to descend upon Capitol Hill. These are members of Congress, okay? So, like, I'm sorry, but you'd think that they would maybe be held to a little bit higher standard. And if they say, hey, you're trespassing, get out of here, you can't do this, that they might back off. But that's not actually what happened. So it got to the point, as Alina Habba pointed out last Friday, that they had to make that arrest of the Newark mayor. And wow, boy, did that set them off. Listen to the sort of craziness that we heard coming out of them.
We've heard a lot of Democrats make the argument that they're just conducting oversight, congressional oversight. Well, we know that's baloney, because had they asked us, had they requested a tour, David, we would have happily facilitated that for them. As well, there are public guidelines that we have offered, including that they need to notify us 24 hours in advance if they would like a tour of a facility. So again, this is all political gamesmanship, and we're not playing with the safety of our law enforcement officers.
No, nor should you. I mean, it makes total sense. I mean, it's outrageous. They could have called, requested access to this facility and gone and done a tour. Did they do that? No. And you know why they didn't do that? Because they wanted to actually get the attention. They're hungry for this kind of attention, and they want to set up this juxtaposition between state and federal law enforcement. But as I've said, and I'm going to say it again, you know what, guys, you're going to lose that all day long. You're just going to lose it and lose it and lose it and lose it, because when it comes to things like immigration, guess what? The federal government has all the power in the world. And by the way, there is this little thing called the Supremacy Clause, which specifically deals and actually dealt with a case out in Arizona, I believe in 2012, where this came up. And the Supremacy Clause specifically states that when it comes to immigration issues, that, you know, the states can do all the sanctuary stuff they want, but the federal government has the ultimate jurisdiction. La Monica got out there and she was ranting and raving, and she was so upset because, and we showed you the tape yesterday, I guess we don't need to do it again, but it was kind of funny because the horn, the train kept like going, like every single time she tried to say something, kind of fitting in more ways than one. And so now she's being looked at for a potential arrest alongside Menendez and alongside none other than Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez herself, who, by the way, has aspirations, believe it or not, to run for president. You know, big puff piece on her in the Wall Street Journal the other day. Don't get me started on the Wall Street Journal. I'm telling you, that paper's getting really weird. Donald Trump said the same thing just the other day. Tom Homan, meanwhile, he just did a total takedown of AOC. A total takedown. It was brilliant. It was great. He's the salt of the earth. He's a good guy. I've known him for a lot of years. He is so passionate about what he does. He's so committed. And when you get a little, I won't say it. When you get a little AOC that comes along the way saying things like this, it's like a gnat. He has to just, squash her. And he did. Here's AOC threatening Tom.
If anyone's breaking the law in this situation, it's not members of Congress, it's the Department of Homeland Security. It's people like Tom Homan and Secretary Kristi Noem. You lay a finger on them, we are going to have a problem.
I think AOC is just jealous because you see Kristi Noem, aka Ice Barbie, is a hell of a lot prettier. Don't you agree? I mean, age and everything aside, we're just talking raw looks. And AOC's kind of losing them at that. I digress. This is catty. This doesn't help my argument. I get it. But she really doesn't like Kristi Noem. And she really doesn't like Tom Homan. You see, the two of them have a history, and I'm going to get to that. But at first, I want to show you what Tom Homan had to say back to one Ms. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. He went on CNN, and he just put it right out there. And man, he leveled her.
First of all, you can't intimidate me. Come on, give me a break. I was enforcing it. I was wearing a green uniform, Border Patrol agent, for 5 years before she was even born. I had more than 3 decades enforcing immigration law before she became a member of Congress. I worked for 6 presidents. I've seen policies. I've seen hundreds of policies. Some worked, some didn't. But you can't deny the success of the Trump administration when it comes to border security. Again, the most secure border in the history of this nation. And I said from day one, and she knows this, you can not support ICE. Shame on you. You can support sanctuary cities. Shame on you. But you can't cross the line. You can't knowingly impede ICE law enforcement officers. That is a felony. You can't harbor and conceal, knowingly harbor and conceal an illegal alien from ICE. That is a felony. And you certainly can't commit criminal trespass. And as far as New York, her district, this administration has done more to protect her district than she has. The number of criminal aliens we took off the streets of New York made her community much safer. She ought to be thanking the members of this administration, the men and women of ICE who protect this country and make her community safer. So, it's politics over public safety. It's just ridiculous. She ought to love her community more than she hates Trump because we're doing a lot to protect her community.
It's well said, right? She ought to love her community more than she hates Trump. But she just hates Trump. It's TDS on steroids. Donald Trump talking about this. I'll play it later in the show. Recently, they're on the plane en route to Saudi Arabia. How, the Democrats are just really kind of consumed, and it's bizarre. Like, we should be concerned for their health, if you would. They can't see the forest for the trees, but she never has been able to. You see, Homan's worked in 6 different administrations. This has been his passion his whole life, and it used to be in the old days, both sides agreed. You kind of needed borders. After all, in the words of Dianne Feinstein, the late Dianne Feinstein from California, we are, quote, not going to become the welfare system for Mexico. I mean, that was her 20 years ago, but even 10 years ago, they were talking a normal game. You go back to Barack Obama, and he was deporting people more than we had ever seen under the Bush administration. In fact, it was one of his criticisms of the Bush administration that they allowed the border to be too porous. But all of a sudden, because it's Donald Trump's issue, they're going the other way. Here's AOC and Tom Homan. This is fantastic, and it tells you everything you need to know about both of these people. This is from 2019. It was a brilliant commentary by Tom. He put the woman once again in her place. I want you to see.
Through this memo.
You're not the author, but you signed the memo.
Yes, a zero tolerance memo.
So you provided the official recommendation to Secretary Nielsen on for the United States to pursue family separation.
I gave Secretary Nielsen numerous recommendations on how to secure the border and save lives.
But it says here that you gave her numerous options, but the recommendation was option 3, family separation.
What I'm saying, this is not the only paper where we've given the Secretary numerous options to secure the border and save lives.
And so the recommendation, of the many that you recommended family separation.
I recommended zero tolerance.
Which includes family separation.
The same as is with every U.S. citizen parent gets arrested when they're with a child.
Zero tolerance was interpreted as the policy that separated children from their
If I get arrested for DUI and I have a young child in the car, I'm going to be separated. When I was a police officer in New York and I arrested a father for domestic violence, I separated that father
Mr.
from his
Homan,
family.
with all due respect, legal asylees are not charged with any crime.
When you're into the country illegally, it's violation 8 United States Code 1325.
Seeking asylum is legal.
If you want to seek asylum and go through the port of entry, do it the legal way. The Attorney General of the United States has made that clear.
Okay.
Kind of amazing, right? I mean, she just doesn't understand this. This is Attorney General after Attorney General, by the way. This is up until the Biden years, this was totally normal. Like, this is not okay, what they got going on. So Tom Homan's putting her in her place, but he's very good at that. Here's another sort of oldie but a goodie. Also from 2019, Tom Homan versus Representative Jayapal, who also doesn't quite seem to get it.
Look, you want to know why there's 50,000 people in detention? You want to know why we have 1 million illegal entries in the United States? You want to know why we have these issues? Because you have failed to secure the border. You have failed to work with this president to close the 3 loopholes we've asked for 2 years to close. So if you want to know why this issue exists, you need to look in the mirror. You have failed American people for not securing the border and closing loopholes.
Mr. Homan,
look,
please respect the chair and the authority of the chair. The time of the gentleman has expired.
I've asked you politely to let me go beyond my time, and you let other people go beyond their time, but not to Tom Homan. He don't get to go beyond his time.
Mr. Homan, we have approved an agreement between the Republicans and the Democrats with the ranking member. We increased the time of one member of Congress who was interrupted by a protest. That is done with the approval of the ranking member. Please respect the chair's authority.
I respect the chair's authority, but the chair...
Mr. Homan!
You work for me. I'm a taxpayer. I'm a taxpayer. You work for me.
The witness will suspend.
Gosh, I mean, he's right. Right? So I'm just pointing out, like, you don't mess around with this guy. Yet AOC is choosing, as we said, to mess around with him, getting a little crazy with some new threats. Here we go.
If anyone's breaking the law in this situation, it's not members of Congress, it's the Department of Homeland Security. It's people like Tom Homan and Secretary Kristi Noem. You lay a finger on them, we are going to have a problem.
Well, you may have a problem. You may have a problem because, again, according to DHS, they've got some video. They've got an investigation going on. LaMonica and Menendez may be in a whole bunch of trouble, along with the Newark mayor. He has been released, by the way, from custody. But this is an ongoing investigation, as Tricia McLaughlin has explained, as Kristi Noem has explained. So when it comes to AOC, if she decides to engage in any kind of similar behavior, guess what? Handcuffs for her.
If AOC goes down there and pulls the same kind of stunt that we've seen on Friday and today, are you going to arrest her as well?
If she trespasses and if she assaults law enforcement officers, as we saw earlier, I think that that's certainly on the table.
Boom! It's on the table. Of course it's on the table. Of course it's on the table because you just can't do this stuff. You can't. I mean, LaMonica, you can't go out and body slam Menendez. You can't body slam an ICE agent if that is in fact what happened. Again, we're waiting on more tape to come out, but you saw what I showed you. And this woman, here's the train video. Okay, we got to play it. We got to play it, right?
How this administration is trying to restrict Congress from doing their bare duties and the responsibilities that the people have elected us to do. What we just witnessed was just disgusting. I am very upset. I am very angry, and I am very hurt that they could be able to do something like that to us. These are people who are supposed to be officers, who are supposed to protect us, and they have done none of that. If they can treat 3 members of Congress like that, just imagine how they can treat people on the street each and every day, both undocumented and people who are citizens here in this country. It makes absolutely no sense to arrest.
You get the picture. She goes on and on and on. The train keeps coming in. Then Menendez comes up, and the train keeps coming in on his commentary as well. Look, Tricia McLaughlin said it well. She said this was a political stunt. They could have requested access to this facility if they wanted to see it. They didn't do that because they wanted this opportunity. They wanted to actually have this altercation with law enforcement in order to bring to a head effectively this state versus federal government. And don't kid yourself. AOC wants the exact same thing. This is what they are itching for. They are itching for a fight. They want this breakdown to happen. This is the quote unquote civil war that we've been talking about. But you know what? They're not going to win. They're just not going to win this time. You know what the American people voted for. Look, he won the Electoral College and he won the popular vote. And by the way, the stock market's up. How do you like that?
This was a cheap political stunt by the Democrats and by these protesters. Who do they want to get out of this facility? Is it the MS-13 gang members? Again, this is a cheap political stunt for their 15 minutes of fame. We're not having it. They put law enforcement officers at risk. They put our staff in the facility at risk and put the detainees at risk. You saw that they didn't even let an ambulance through. This is not something that this administration is going to put up with. And that's part of the reason that this mayor was arrested. You can't just storm a detention facility and assault law enforcement officers with impunity.
No, you can't. I mean, when did you think you actually could? So Andy McCarthy, he's a renowned legal scholar, and not necessarily, I'm going to play this soundbite because he's not necessarily a big fan of Donald Trump, but he understands the law, and I think that's an important sort of distinction to make. It's not like he's like totally pro-MAGA, super duper Trump. No, but he is on the side of the Constitution. Thank you very much. And so am I, and so are you, and so is the rest of America. Let's listen to Andy.
So they broke out in song on Monday. A few days prior to that, though, the video was a lot rougher. Another showdown outside that ICE detention center in New Jersey. Protesters, including Democratic lawmakers, members of the clergy there, protest the facility now a couple days in the making. Andy McCarthy is with us to tell us who's right, who's wrong on all this and where it goes from here. Andy, good morning to you, and thank you for your
morning,
time.
Bill.
Yeah, AOC says Tom Homan, Secretary Noem, you're the problem here. Here we go. Watch.
If anyone's breaking the law in this situation, it's not members of Congress, it's the Department of Homeland Security. It's people like Tom Homan and Secretary Kristi Noem. You lay a finger on them, we are going to have a problem.
Okay, so legally, who's in the right here? Do the lawmakers have the authority to go into this facility, or do they not?
No, they absolutely don't have the authority to go in without the approval of the executive branch. The enforcement of the federal immigration laws is a federal responsibility. Congress has oversight of it, but members of Congress who are not acting as Congress, they're acting as individuals, they don't have any more right to obstruct the operations and certainly to create situations that endanger and in some cases reportedly have resulted in assaults on federal officials. They don't have any power to do that.
You see? Obviously. Again, do I need to go back to 101? I've been reading the Constitution now almost daily on the show, so maybe I'll spare you that. But listen, you got the Supremacy Clause, you got the Commerce Clause. This has all been challenged before, and guess what? You know who is in the right on this? Once again, the federal government. Hey, I mean, remember what happened in Texas, for goodness sakes? Gosh, in Texas, when you couldn't actually put the border wall, they were taking it down. Biden's team was taking the darn border wall down, and poor Greg Abbott down there. Governor Abbott's like, excuse me? Right? Like, it costs all this money to take the border wall down. He couldn't do anything. He couldn't do anything because, dun-dun-dun, the federal government has the power over things like the border, period. End of story. This is not up for debate. I mean, I was thinking Texas might want to look at a secession or something. I mean, heck, who the the you-know-what needs this, right? You can understand why they might be thinking that. They didn't, of course. But in other words, it's ridiculous. When you have a federal government that won't protect you and you're right there on the border, you don't really want that federal government. What the heck are your taxpayer dollars doing anyway? Reminder, subscribe, share, like. I mean, we're just flying here on the show, and it's awesome. We got a stock market that is taking off. I want to get to, by the way, what the feds are doing in Rikers Island momentarily, but Donald Trump has been doing the Middle East tour, right? And he's had a lot of great commentary along the way. You know me, because I'm all about the markets. I mean, I've spent 20 some odd years covering markets, started at Goldman Sachs before I ever became a financial reporter. And a lot of what I do when I'm looking at politics is through a financial lens. So I love hearing him when he says stuff like this over in Saudi Arabia, okay? He loves the stock market right now. Listen.
Amazing what a rising market will do. Oh, it's going to get a lot higher. In fact, I told people 5 weeks ago, this is a great time to buy. I got criticized for that. Now they don't criticize me anymore. People should have listened. But it's going to go a lot higher. You see, we've never had anything like this happen. It's an explosion of investment and jobs, and great companies are coming in.
Yeah, that's what he's doing. It's really funny. He's over there in Saudi Arabia and he's in Qatar, and he's effectively kind of like selling the U.S. It's like a giant sales pitch, and he's bringing in all kinds of business. This is amazing. Like, did you see, we saw Americo saying that they were going to put all this money into U.S. companies. I loved seeing this. I absolutely loved. Let me see if I can pull this up for you. And Boeing was getting a deal. Oops, wrong one. Stock market is up for the year, tremendously for the year. Anyway, we have America, there we go, signing deals with U.S. companies totaling $90 billion. You had Boeing getting all kinds of orders. It's incredible, right? So he's over there selling America and reminding us, of course, of all the opportunity that we have here in America. And it's in part because we finally got somebody who knows what he's doing in charge. I love having a businessman there in the Oval Office. If you're interested in investing, and by the way, you should be, hey, don't take it from me. Take it from the horse's mouth. You need to go to 76 Research and use my code word $1.
It's the biggest bill of its kind ever in the history of this country. And Speaker Johnson and Leader Thune have done an incredible job. I mean, I'll let you know we have to get a vote, but we have a lot of support for that bill. And if that happens on top of all of these trade deals that we're doing, this country will hit a point that you better go out and buy stock now. Let me tell you, this country will be like a rocket ship that goes straight up. This is going to be numbers that nobody's ever seen before. That's a very important element of all of this. You know, if we get that, if you don't, and the Democrats are fighting it only because they want to fight. They have Trump derangement syndrome. You know, if it was somebody else, they wouldn't fight. If you had a normal person, if you had some stiff sitting behind you, they'd be fine. But they have Trump derangement syndrome. You know, Senator Schumer's become a Palestinian. Welcome. I don't know when they're going to give him the ceremony, whatever the ceremony may be. But it's terrible what's happened to the Democrats. So very, very important element of everything, of what we're doing.
Indeed, very important, very, very important. Just on the AOC front, she is in a lot of trouble, and it's almost as though she welcomes this. She brings this on. She wants this kind of commotion, and I think it's because she has these bigger political aspirations. So there would be nothing that would make her happier, of course, than to get arrested, and you may see that they're reluctant to move forward unless she does something really, really egregious, but nonetheless, that's on the table. I want to go to John Kennedy talking about AOC because he's always good for a few laughs. Let's listen in.
Well, I think most Americans understand what's going on with the Democratic Party. They're on their back foot, and they're trying to their leader is Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez, and she years ago she took a sharp left, and kept driving, and she's moving their party to the left, and she's losing the American people, and the president keeps hitting them with one blow after another.
Yep. Well, you know what? They can follow her all day long. Right down into the ditch. Okay by me, okay by you. I have a feeling, right? You know, they want to follow her, then they get what they deserve. Reminder, subscribe, share, like, all that good stuff. We got a big, big show and a lot to get to today because it's incredible. All that's happening right now. We talked about this a little bit yesterday, but I want to touch on it again because it really is a big deal. The feds have seized control of Rikers Island. I cannot state enough how important that is. You had Letitia James and Kathy Hochul and others coming out saying that Donald Trump and his administration could not get access to Rikers Island and they could not do anything with the prisoners that were there, that were here illegally. Forgive me, I think we hit the wrong lower third. Can you believe that? On there, but let me go back to this because I think it's really important. You got to understand they are taking control of Rikers Island. And this is critical at this moment in time because it flies in the face of everything that these states want. But don't forget, again, go back to supremacy clause, go back to the commerce clause, go back to the naturalization. This is the federal government's jurisdiction. And yes, Tom Homan has wanted this and he has made it clear. Now that ICE has an office in there, they're going through and they're finding everybody. If you're here illegally and you've committed a crime so much that you are now in Rikers Island, you think we're going to pay for your 3 squares a day? I don't think so, nor does he.
Getting ICE officers back in Rikers is meaningful because we agree that, the worst of the worst, the firearms violations, the murders, the kidnappers, the rapists, will come to our attention, certain release, we can grab them. But I've made it clear, I want everybody. If you're an illegal alien, you get booked in Rikers Island, I don't care if it's for shoplifting, I want them. So this is a start to deal with the worst of the worst in the beginning, but I made it clear that I plan on the whole of them. I want everybody. So we're going to work toward that. We agreed to some other things I'm not going to discuss on national TV because I don't want the city council to know what I'm doing. City council is fighting the mayor and everything. So let's surprise them on what we're coming to the table with and let them sue me. Bring it. Because I'm done. I'm not running a popularity contest. I came to New York to get meaningful action. We got a lot of words. The last meeting I had, today I came, I want action, I want a plan, and we're leaving with a partial plan. But I'll come back every week if I have to until we finish this plan. But it's a good first step to get back on Rikers Island. That's a game changer. You better believe it. Total game changer. And interesting that he has to be wary of the city council in New York City, even though the mayor has come out and supported him. Eric Adams, who, by the way, as soon as Trump was elected, got rid of those, it was like nearly $400 that they were giving in special cards. You got like a little Visa card or MasterCard or whatever to go and buy food that was ethnically appropriate because they found that the migrants that were coming here staying in the Roosevelt Hotel where they got daily maid service, can't make it up, were not comfortable with the food that they were being served. So they needed ethnically appropriate food, which meant they were handing out these, nearly $400 a week to each one of these migrants. It was something that obviously New York City could not handle. The burden was too intense. And Eric Adams said, we're putting a stop to it. So the left is going nuts. The city council's going nuts. But no, he's out there, says he's going to do the right thing. He's working with Homan. Here he is, February 14th, Valentine's Day, on Fox and Friends, saying we're going in, we're going to do what's needed. And indeed, Homan now has an office in Rikers Island.
You've agreed to sign an executive order to open up an ICE office at Rikers Island so that these dangerous criminals that are here illegally can be deported. Tell the folks at home, because they'll hear this, they'll say, oh, they're going to come after me next. You said these are the worst of the worst. So who is at Rikers Island that will be deported? What have they done? And you bring in 2 points where the far left has hijacked this narrative. ICE is running in our schools, ICE is running in our churches, and they are creating this frenzy. They're not in the business of just grabbing children. And we need to, just stop all this noise. Rikers Island, particularly after all the reforms, Rikers Island is now having some of the most dangerous people in our city. And by having ICE on Rikers Island, part of our gang intelligence, using our intel with NYPD, correction officers, we could identify those gangs inside and outside on the street. There was no reason they were removed from Rikers Island. And as I sat down with Tom earlier, I said that we're going to look at all the legalese. I'm able to do an executive order to put them back on Rikers Island, what they should be with part of our criminal justice apparatus.
Because, again, you have criminals that are here in this country illegally, and then they commit a crime, and you're going to try and protect them some more? I mean, what the heck is it all about? From a Pennsylvania judge, we talked a little bit about this week. The U.S. can actually use this Alien Enemies Act to deport gang members associated with Venezuela. TDA, as the gang is known, Tren de Agua. I don't think I said that right, and I do speak Spanish, but anyway, it's a bad gang, and it's got ties, it's believed, to Nicolas Maduro. Of course, Tulsi Gabbard's outfit came out recently, within the last couple of days, and tried to basically throw cold water on that. Tulsi responded yesterday. Go look at the lead in yesterday's show. She got rid of 2 of the top intel people there because her feeling is, hey, we're all on one team. If you're not on the team, if you're actually against MAGA policies and you're going to try and get in the way of this thing, then we don't need you. We don't need you. And so they were fired. She's been conducting an investigation. More firings are likely to happen. But in the case of this law, Stephanie Haynes out of Pennsylvania ruling that, yes, indeed, the 1798 Alien Enemies Act can be used.
Number one, DOJ said a federal court cannot compel the executive branch to engage in any mandated act of diplomacy or incursion upon the sovereignty of another nation. So your argument is that you don't have to bring him back home, but will you?
So I want to correct, I hate to do it, Bill, but I got to correct you on every single thing that you said because it was all wrong. First, we won the Supreme Court case, clearly, 9-0. A district court judge said unconscionably that the president and his administration have to go into El Salvador and extradite one of their citizens, an El Salvadorian citizen, so that would be kidnapping, that we have to kidnap an El Salvadorian citizen against the will of his government and fly him back to America, which would be an unimaginable act and an invasion of El Salvador's sovereignty. So he appealed to the Supreme Court, and it said clearly, no district court can compel the president to exercise his Article 2 foreign powers in any way whatsoever. DOJ called me after that Supreme Court ruling, and they said, this is amazing. We won this case 9-0. We are in excellent standing here. So this has been portrayed wrong for 72 hours in the media. They said the most a court could ever compel you to do would be to facilitate return, which would basically mean if El Salvador voluntarily sends him back, we wouldn't block him at the airport. We would put him back into ICE detention, and then he would be deported either back to El Salvador or somewhere else. The Supreme Court said that is the most the government can be expected to do. So we won the case handily. The misreporting on this has been atrocious.
Okay,
Secondly,
I appreciate the clarification.
No, Bill, it's important. He was not mistakenly sent to El Salvador.
Okay, so do you still
He's
believe
an illegal
he is a
alien
member of
from
MS?
El Salvador. Hold on, this is important. In 2019, he was ordered deported. He has a final removal order from the United States. These are things that no one disputes. Where is he from? El Salvador. Where is he a resident and citizen of? El Salvador. Is he here illegally? Yes. Does he have a deportation order? Yes. A DOJ lawyer who has since been relieved of duty, a saboteur, a Democrat, put into a filing incorrectly that this was a mistaken removal. It was not. This was the right person sent to the right place. Now, some have said, well, but he had a thing called a withholding order. So a withholding order means you've been ordered deported, but an immigration judge is saying you cannot go back to a particular country. Here's the thing. If you are a member of a foreign terrorist organization, you cannot have a withholding order. Since he's in MS-13, there is no withholding order. Furthermore, the gang that he is accused of being persecuted by doesn't exist anymore in El Salvador. The 18th Street gang is gone. So you have an illegal alien from El Salvador. Bill, where are we supposed to send the illegal alien from El Salvador?
You haven't even
to what
allowed me
country?
to ask you a question. Are you convinced he is still a member of MS-13? That was your original charge.
Yes. But here's the thing, Bill. Yes, but here, not only am I convinced of it, not only is El Salvador convinced of it, Bill, he's an illegal alien from El Salvador with the deportation order. So his only options in life, Bill, his only options in life are to be deported to El Salvador or to be deported to some other country. That's it. He has a deportation order. So, Bill, you tell me, what country should we deport him to? Tell me, please. Tell me.
So Marco Rubio on Sunday morning said this.
Okay, Bill's changing the topic. I know I've showed you guys that before, but it's fantastic, right? Miller is brilliant. I've always said this. when I was at Fox, like a lot of people actually didn't want to have him on their show because he was considered sort of toxic. And I'm like, are you kidding me? This guy is freaking brilliant. All right, you want to know who rated on my show? I'll tell you right now. Bannon, brilliant. I don't agree with him on everything, but brilliant. Miller, phenomenal. Right? I could listen to him all day. He's fantastic. And he knows the law inside and out. Oh, and my son. My little guy. I'd bring him on. He's really happy with the stock market lately. He has his little Robinhood account that I helped him set up, and he's up like 15% in the last month, so he's super happy. But anyway, those are my three. Oh, and Trump. How could I forget? Anytime Donald Trump was on, we were through the roof. I left the elephant in the room out. But anyway, Miller is good, all right? Miller's really, really good. He understands this inside and out. And his point is like, why are we exhausting ourselves with this? It's pretty darn simple. But the left has to make something out of nothing, right? Like, it's just what they do. They can't help themselves. It's why the woman out in Wisconsin had to make a whole thing while ICE was in her courtroom of taking the guy who's the suspected criminal for domestic violence, thank you very much, took him into her back office and let him get away. And now the New York Times is on her side. I spoke to a Democrat the other day who's trying to tell me, oh, Hannah Dugan should be running for vice president. And I'm like, what are you people talking about? Like, you really want to lose, don't you? You just want to lose. Oh, they like AOC and this woman is VP. You got to be kidding me. But this is where their mentality is at. It's important, I think, to understand that, to really have a grasp of the way that they're thinking, because it is so unbelievably anti-Trump. It's like they can't get out of their own way. I don't think they're ever going to be able to win another election. But you know what? I'm okay with that. I'm really and truly okay with that. The state of the Democrat Party is really one of a total, utter mess. And it's of their own doing. In other words, they could fix this. Do they want to fix it? No. I mean, Gavin Newsom is trying to offer them a path forward. Not that he would be the one, but nonetheless, they don't want to fix it. Trump weighed in on this, and it was awesome.
Well, not all of them. I think you have a lot of them that they don't know where they are right now. I think they don't know what to do, like men playing in women's sports. I saw a guy that I know, a good guy, Democrat. He's trying to justify, 2 days ago on television, he's being hammered, and he's trying to justify men playing in women's sports, and it's sad. I wanted to call him and say, you better get off that subject. That's not an 80-20, that's about a 97-3, okay? If they talk about, the famous, they always say it's 80-20. What's not, a lot of these things are not 80-20, like transgender for everybody. Let's have transgender for everybody, your kids, everybody. That's not an 80-20. They always say that's 80-20. That's 99-1, I would say. So, look, in one way, I don't like talking about it because I don't want to talk them out of it, because, it would be harder to beat them if they were normal on things. It shows that they're almost insane. And they do suffer from Trump derangement syndrome at a high level. And I guess I'm honored by that. But I'll say this, look.
TDS at a high level. They're almost insane. So insane that Hannah Dugan is now facing a federal criminal charge for obstructing justice because she was willing to allow somebody who was accused of domestic violence to escape from her courtroom, much like perhaps she was trying to escape the reporters who were trying to hound her down.
Judge, anything to say about this?
Yeah, they're almost insane. Actually, I'll go further. They are insane. Okay, TDS is a real thing. It really warps the brain. It's TDS plus political desire that is highly misguided. Take Letitia James, for example, who now is running out of money. Letitia, I don't know what you're going to do. You may just have to divest those assets. If you don't have the money, you're going to have to sell the house in Norfolk, Virginia, as the grand jury issues subpoenas in the Letitia James case. So this is new developing, just coming in right now. The New York Post reporting that Letitia has no money. No money because the Republicans, as they should, are holding it up. in the state government there. The GOP is pushing back on this $10 million slush fund that she's got, paid for courtesy of New York taxpayers to cover her legal bills. Because their point is, you know what, this is a personal situation. You know, you were doing something funky, possibly, allegedly, with your mortgage application, and now you expect taxpayers in the city of New York, in the state of New York, to actually fund your very expensive Abbe Lowell attorney. He's the guy who represented Hunter Biden. He does not come cheap. And so she needs that $10 million. She doesn't have any money. Now the grand jury is issuing these subpoenas. The lawyer is on the clock, and according to a letter obtained by the New York Post, New York GOPers are saying she's not going to get access to the funds. And they're right. Like, this proposed use, they write, of public money is a gross misuse of taxpayer dollars, you think? It undermines public trust in government and sends a troubling message that elected officials and state employees are entitled to publicly funded legal defense, even for matters entirely disconnected from their public responsibilities. DiNapoli, he's the state controller. He would need to sign off, you see, on drawing down the $10 million to reimburse one Letitia James for all her expensive legal bills. And he's not going to be able to do that without some consensus there. So if the Republicans are standing in the way of this, and they absolutely should, I think taxpayers are going to increasingly get kind of annoyed. But here's the deal. She's going to have to come up with some kind of way to pay this off, because she's facing 30 years in prison. USC 181014, false statements to obtain a federally insured loan can land you 30 years in prison, ladies and gentlemen, not to mention false statements to the government. FHA loans, which is what she got there in Virginia, they are issued by the federal government. So this is like, it's sort of amazing, because what she was trying to go after Donald Trump for was a private transaction between him and Deutsche Bank. It's funny because you kind of wonder, like, did she know, like, that mortgages could be sort of manipulated in some way, because she was trying to do that? And she, by the way, was doing it with federal money, thereby putting taxpayers at risk. It's like a whole other ballgame. Like, this is a serious crime. Whereas the one that she was trying to go after Donald Trump with was a civil crime. And by the way, they couldn't get to first base. Well, I guess they did. They got the $500 million fine. But you heard the appellate court comments. I played them for you multiple times. Maybe we'll have to resurrect those next week. But the appellate court judges are like, hey, wait a second, there was no victim here. Whereas in this case, there could be a victim, because you're lying on a federal loan application about this being a primary residence instead of a secondary residence. Obviously, it can't be her primary residence if she's living in New York as Attorney General in 2023 and getting a mortgage in Norfolk, Virginia in 2023. So the FHA requires the property be the primary resident within 60 days of closing, and that wasn't the case. In fact, take a look. Here is the document that she signed. I'm going to lean in to see this a little bit more carefully with you. She said in the document, I hereby declare that I intend to occupy this property as my principal residence. Oh boy, Tishy baby. It's not your principal residence. We know because the Daily Caller paid a little visit, right? We saw this video. This is awesome. I was talking to the reporter, actually. We were on Newsmax together recently. I was like, way to go, way to go, way to go. So they showed up at her home.
We're just curious who the occupants of the home are, because there's...
Wasn't Letitia.
There are connections to New York Attorney General Letitia James.
You're trespassing.
Are you related to Letitia James?
Do you know her?
You're trespassing. Go in the house.
Do you know Letitia James? No? Okay.
You're trespassing.
No comment. Thank you, ma'am.
Don't come up to my house no more.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. You have a good one.
You will. Be well.
Don't come to my house no more. Well, they were very polite. So that's kind of a big issue. So there's this house, as I said, in Norfolk, Virginia, that she got a mortgage in 2023 on, and the mortgage actually stated that this would be her primary residence, because she couldn't have gotten that special loan if it wasn't her primary residence, and therefore she lied. And she may have lied on this brownstone thing. That's the other allegation, because she has this brownstone that she's had since 2001 in New York, and she claims that it's 4 units instead of 5, because if it's 5 units, you don't qualify for the special extra super duper FHA loan stuff. I mean, unbelievable. And then, there's this doozy from 1983. We talked about this. She signed on to a mortgage as her father's wife. I mean, Tishy, come on. Is this why? You were so clued into the mortgage thing with Trump because you knew that, you could get a better rate if you did certain things, because you did it yourself. You did. And now you may not have any money to actually pay for all this, which is kind of funny, because remember what she said about confiscating Donald Trump's assets? I think they're going to have to confiscate hers.
4 days after a judge ordered Donald Trump to pay $355 million for a decade of fraud, New York Attorney General Letitia James says she's prepared to do everything she can to make sure the former president pays his fine, including, she told us, seizing the buildings that bear his name.
If he does not have funds to pay off the judgment, then we will seek, judgment enforcement mechanisms in court, and we will ask the judge to seize his assets.
So, Letitia, if you do not have the funds to pay for your lawyer, I guess you're just going to have to go with a public defendant then. And then if you don't have the funds to pay the federal government back, I guess they're just going to have to seize your assets. But I digress, because it's actually way worse than that. This is not just money. This is actual jail time. Okay, this is like a federal crime that is punishable up to 30 years, ladies and gentlemen, 30 years in prison. So this is pretty darn serious. She says she's totally innocent.
I will respond to these baseless allegations at the appropriate time and in the appropriate way, but I am 100% confident that it will not result in any criminal indictment or action against me, and that it is nothing more than a revenge tour, and that Donald Trump just ultimately got to the J's, and I was next.
I wouldn't be so sure.
Again, it sounds like you do.
I wouldn't be so sure, because again, I'm going to go back to the 2023 mortgage that you took out in Norfolk, Virginia, where you insisted that it was actually your primary residence. Don't tell me that was a clerical error, as she's trying to say. Oh, just a clerical error. Just like, signing on as your dad's wife was some kind of clerical error. Just like saying you had 4 levels instead of 5 because you could get a better loan. That was a clerical error too, right? Tishy, honey, no, that's not going to fly. It's just not going to work. Like, you're a lawyer, for goodness sakes. I mean, maybe if you weren't a lawyer, one could say, well, I was naive. I didn't understand. Somebody else did this for me, blah, 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 blah. But no, you're a lawyer. Like, you actually have to know these things. You're held to a different standard, which is another reason why they're probably going to be taking away her bar license. She's not going to be able to practice in the state of New York. I know, Don, you were talking the other day about how she would still be able to probably be AG, because you don't actually have to have a license to practice law as the Attorney General, shockingly, in New York. But we'll see. I don't think she's going to be able to make it through the ethics committee on this one. But again, I think what's so fascinating here is that she could be facing federal prison, and that she's actually not going to have any money if the Republicans get their way to pay for Abby Lowell and defend herself. I mean, why should New York taxpayers have to pay for that, for goodness sake? She's trying to claim it's political because she wants access, you understand, guys, to that money. It's $10 million that she can use to cover her legal costs. So she has to try and say this is political, that it's not personal, even though I think it's pretty clear to all of us it's personal. You're the one that decided to go out on a limb and make a lie for your personal property that you were buying.
I have to ask you, there were reports today that the Justice Department has launched a criminal investigation into real estate transactions that you're involved with. I'm not validating that in any way, but I wanted to just ask you if you've received a formal notice of that at this point.
No, not at all. These allegations, Jen, are baseless. They have been discredited, refuted. There was a letter that was prepared by my attorney that was sent to Pam Bondi, the United States Attorney General. And it's unfortunate that President Trump publicly attacked me a few days ago. And as a result of that, he telegraphed to the Department of Justice and to FBI that I should be targeted. You see, this is nothing more than an extension of his revenge, his retribution. And he finally got up to the J's. And so I stand prepared to respond to these baseless attacks with facts. And we look forward, obviously, to further discussions with the Department of Justice or any other individual who leaked this material.
So that's what she's going to continue saying, okay, that it is somehow a political vendetta against her. And that's how she's going to justify being able to use these funds. But again, I don't see it, because if you hadn't actually said you were your dad's wife, if you hadn't actually signed something where you literally state that this is going to be your primary residence while you're the AG in New York, buying a home in Virginia, like, then we wouldn't be here, right? The irony is sort of just amazing. I can't get over it. It's like Shakespearean. Totally Shakespearean. Anyway, this is the soundbite that she's referring to. She's trying to say Trump wants to get me because it's me. Maybe, but I would say he's very cautious about how he handles this. Listen to how he phrases this. He's like, yes, she's a loser. She's bad for New York, but Pam will do what Pam needs to do, period.
I can say, unrelated to that, she's a disaster for New York. She's a horrible, horrible human being. And I think she's a total crook. There's no question about it. But that's just my opinion. Pam's going to have to do what she wants. She's a very bad person. She's a very, very bad person who campaigned solely on, I'm going to get Donald Trump over and over again. She's a sick person. But that has nothing to do with what Pam does. Pam is going to do what's right. She always does. I've known her a long time.
So Pam is doing what's right. Pam was asked by the head of the FHA, William Pulte, to look into this because these would obviously be federal crimes and would set a very, very bad precedent if people think that they can go out and get a federal housing loan saying that this is my primary residence when it's not. That would be a problem, right, for the entire system. It's putting the taxpayer at risk. So William Pulte went to Pam Bondi at the DOJ. Kash Patel at the FBI has launched a criminal investigation, and now the Eastern District of the Virginia Court is issuing subpoenas because they need more information. As for her being political or him being political, I mean, don't kid yourself. She was going after him before she had ever even found a crime. She campaigned entirely on getting Trump. No.
The President of the United States has complained that I'm engaging in some sort of political witch hunt, that I've got some personal vendetta against him, that I campaigned against him. That is not true.
This illegitimate president who sits in the White House. That president, because he's not my president, he's an illegitimate president. His days are numbered. His days are numbered. We've got to get ready to mobilize, and we've got to get ready to agitate and irritate until victory is won.
Blah, 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 blah. And then there was the, too male, too stale, and too pale. That was another one of her chants. Well, you know what, Letitia, your days are numbered yourself, okay? And you're out of money, and you're not going to be able to pay for any of this. So I think it's kind of fitting that you're going to now have to sell your assets in order to cover your tail with your expensive legal bills if you decide to continue on with one Abby Lowell, the former attorney for one Hunter Biden. Donald Trump in Saudi Arabia. This is amazing. And also in Qatar, he's just been on this whirlwind tour, and it has been a lot of pomp and circumstance. I don't know if you saw, for example, the Saudis. This was fascinating, guys. They had all of these people on horses carrying American flags. These were like the Saudi guards. It was just tremendous to see. I mean, everything, all the video that's been coming in has been super interesting. I just want to see if I can show you this because it's worth taking a peek at. Donald Trump really getting the royal treatment. And then, of course, all of the money pouring in. It's just great to see. Great to see for the United States of America with all the companies that are getting deals over there. He's like the best salesperson, if you would, for America. Here he is with his royal escorts. You gotta hand it to the Saudis. They really know how to put on a show. American flags carried by the Saudi Royal Army, escorting Donald Trump and the beast. They got some stuff going on. Yeah. It was great. And then there were the Qatari F-15 jets. So he's over there. He's making deals left and right. And it's really good to see. He does believe that the market is going even higher. Okay, so a lot of people are saying, can I still get in? I mean, let's see where we were today. Don, you're saying the market's not doing much. I look at this stuff every day, a zillion times a day. What can I say? I'm sorry, because whenever it's down, I try to invest. And it's just my sort of rule of thumb. And I'm like, oh, well, there we go on today. Even gold's up, right? Like gold was down the other day, so I was buying gold. Gold's up a percent. You get silver up, you get the Dow, you get the S&P, the NASDAQ, all trading higher. It's like also NVIDIA has been really performing well. I think Donald Trump really gets how important these tech companies are. Even Bitcoin. Bitcoin might be down just a touch today, but still well over 100K. It is amazing to see. And he's like, there's more to come. And I think this is important because a lot of people are saying, wait a second, can I still get in? I have 3 kids. My son has been like super interested in all of this, and so I've been sort of helping him out and trying to sort of guide him through this to understand how to invest. My girls, not so much, but all of a sudden they're looking at their brother's portfolio, which is up 15-16% in the last month, and they're like, hey, what about us? Can we still get in? Is there still time? And this is a common question, and so I would say yes, but let me have the President of the United States say it for you instead.
Amazing what a rising market will do. Oh, it's going to get a lot higher. In fact, I told people 5 weeks ago, this is a great time to buy. I got criticized for that. Now they don't criticize me anymore. People should have listened. But it's going to go a lot higher. You're going to see, we've never had anything like this happen. It's an explosion of investment and jobs, and great companies are coming in.
You know what? They are. And you have a lot of companies now looking to onshore some of their business operations here in the States because it means less in the way of tariffs. You have all those deals that are happening there in the Middle East. You see on the screen, Aramco, the Middle Eastern company, signing all kinds of deals with U.S. companies. All of this is a real big positive. Of course, our portfolios have been killing it there at 76 Research. So I encourage you to go over to 76 Research, take a look at that. Use code word dollar. There's another soundbite that I actually wanted to play for you guys because this is just terrific, if you would. It is Donald Trump actually speaking about the media recently. He did this rather wide-ranging interview with Sean Hannity, my former colleague at Fox, and he talked about what's going on with the media in general. You know, he is absolutely no fan of ABC. We've got the FCC having issued multiple letters. There's an investigation ongoing into ABC, into Disney, because, well, they were really high on DEI and a few other things, and that is, well, frankly, in dissonance with the actual Constitution of the United States. And so the FCC is taking this very seriously and threatening to actually remove the affiliation of all the ABC stations from ABC itself. Listen to what he says about George Stephanopoulos. I call him Little Georgie Poo, Little Georgie Poo, who was out on camera despite his producer saying over and over again, hey, do not mention what you mentioned, because Donald Trump was never convicted of that with Jean Carroll, yet he went on and he said it multiple times on his political show on the weekend. It was really kind of outrageous, and he did this in sort of violation of what his entire research and production team had said, which makes you kind of wonder why the heck Bob Iger is even keeping this guy around. They had to pay $16 million because of Georgie Poo. Listen.
On Steffa, I call him George. Slopadopoulos, the George Slopadopoulos show on ABC. ABC's really bad.
I call him Little Georgie, so we both have our own little
No, but he's a bad guy. But he's a bad guy. We had to pay me $16 million, so that's good.
My favorite was the interview with the guy. You didn't pick David Muir or Stephanopoulos. I don't even know who you are.
I had no idea.
I don't know if the media knows how to deal with all the access they finally have, which they haven't had in a long time.
I had no idea who he was, but he got a little nasty, so I explained that I just don't know who you are. Who are you? They actually gave me a choice of anybody at ABC, and I picked this guy, Moran, because I never heard.
Terry Moran. Remember that the other day? He gets an office in an interview in the Oval Office. And he starts going after the president about Garcia. And at some point, the president looks at him and he's like, Terry, you're kind of blowing it. This was your big chance. And I picked you because I had no clue who you were. And I thought, might as well give somebody else a chance. It's kind of funny moment. And that's actually on my shorts feed. You should check that out. We did play it in the show as well. We might have even had a show titled after that because it was so unbelievable. But there is Sean Hannity asking him about it. Funny, Sean has Georgie as his name. I'm going still with Georgie Poo, right? Because little Georgie Poo. It kind of fits. He's little, like really little. I'll tell you a quick story. So, in between me being on CNBC and going to Bloomberg, ABC was trying to hire me. And at one point, it was actually really strange. They started calling me an ABC analyst, and I was in contract with Bloomberg at the time and supposed to start there. Bloomberg's calling up going, what the heck? You're on Good Morning America, and they're calling you an ABC analyst. I'm like, I swear to God, I have not signed a contract with them. But somehow, Georgie Poo's introducing me as the ABC economic analyst. I'll never forget it. Like, I'm very aware of how, I am on set and where my lights are and how I sit and this and that. And I'm in this chair, which is like really low. Like the desk is really, really low, like this, right? It's like I'm sitting in a high chair or something. And Georgie Poo is up on a set that's higher. And his chair is like literally all the way up. And I kept saying, well, can I move my chair? And they're like, no, you can't. You know why? Georgie Poo wants to be taller than everyone else. Ooh, what do they call that? Is it a little Napoleon complex he has going on? Yeah, that might contribute to some of his TDS. I don't know. But they all got the TDS. They all got the TDS on steroids. And it's making it so that they really can't get out of their own way. I mean, I don't think we've ever seen anything quite like it. I mean, politics is politics. I do go back to that Smith-Mundt Act. I think that has contributed to it to a certain extent. You guys have heard me talk about that before. Basically, we got the modernization of the Smith-Mundt Act under Barack Obama. And as a result of that, basically, it lifted the domestic ban on propaganda. So a lot of news organizations that were being paid for so-called propaganda overseas because we want to infiltrate their sort of agenda and therefore have an effect on their elections because it's in our natural interest or the CIA's interest to do so. That all changed and got turned back onto us. And so as a result of that, I suspect that the kind of craziness that you have seen vis-a-vis the media in recent years is in part inflamed because there was a financial incentive, right? A financial incentive for them to be like that. And so this TDS stuff that has developed has been rather extraordinary, as Trump, of course, admitted.
Well, not all of them. I think you have a lot of them that they don't know where they are right now. I think they don't know what to do, like men playing in women's sports. I saw a guy that I know, good guy, Democrat. He's trying to justify, 2 days ago on television, he's being hammered, and he's trying to justify men playing in women's sports, and it's sad. I wanted to call him and say, you better get off that subject. That's not an 80-20, that's about a 97-3, okay? If they talk about, the famous, they always say it's 80-20. What's not, a lot of these things are not 80-20, like transgender for everybody. Let's have transgender for everybody, your kids, everybody. That's not an 80-20. They always say that's 80-20. That's 99-1, I would say. So, look, in one way, I don't like talking about it because I don't want to talk them out of it, because it would be harder to beat them if they were normal on things. It shows that they're almost insane. And they do suffer from Trump derangement syndrome at a high level. And I guess I'm honored by that. But I'll say this, look.
Glass half full, right? Cheers to that. Great to have you guys here today. Remember to subscribe, share, like. Let me know what you think of the show. I actually read all the comments. Great to see so many familiar faces. Cat Crazy back in the house. Of course, David Lorenzo as well. Good to see you guys, all of you. Thank you for all that you do. We are growing, and we're not going to stop. I'll see you live here tomorrow. We got more content coming your way later this afternoon.